Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and welcome back to the Sentai Potential series, where I take a look at skipped seasons of Super Sentai and assess their adaptation potential for Power Rangers by Hasbro. This is not a series where I blatantly guess what does and doesn't get adapted like I have done in the past. Instead, I'm just looking at what Hasbro could do with the different seasons by looking at their aesthetics, source footage, and toys. Since I want to be as thorough as possible, this is split up into a multi-part series. Last time, I took a look at Russia Sentai Zyuohger, a video that I highly recommend you watch, not just because it's worth the watch, but also because I go over a ton of stuff in that video that's important to the rest of the series. If you don't want to be confused about stuff I say in this video, go and check out that video. It'll be in the description and at the annotation in the corner. Also be sure to check out my Twitter and Discord server to get sneak peeks at videos just like this one and other upcoming videos. Now, as I said, the last video dealt with Zyuohger, so now it's on to Doubutsu Sentai Zyuohger, the next skipped season. Zyuohger has one of my favorite aesthetics in all of Sentai, especially in the suits. It masterfully combines this complex stylized designs in the chests with the animals, but the masks are also very simple yet elegant. The Zyuo Eagle helmet is one of my favorite helmets in all of Sentai, and the others are also very distinct as well. And if we want to get specific and look at the other animal Sentais, even then we've got very different designs. The helmets of the other seasons do this thing that I absolutely hate, where they have the eyes at the top, and then the visors are the mouths of the animals they are based on. It looks so strange to me, and I'm really not a big fan. Zyuohger does this thing where we have the eyes at the top, but the whole helmet is the face of the animal, and the visor is more or less just a separate thing. It makes the helmets look great and gives the entire suit a bit of personality, and I really like that. Strangely enough though, the suits are very distinct from the rest of the items in their show. The suits themselves don't feature any cube designs on them, but of course when we get to everything else, they are loaded with cubes. I would dare say this season is more of a cube-themed season rather than an animal season, and this is primarily due to Zyuland being made up of cubes, but we'll get into that stock footage stuff later. In all seriousness though, this is once again a massively unique aesthetic in Super Sentai and Power Rangers, and as I mentioned in the last video, it seems as if Hasbro wants to start getting unique with their Power Rangers adaptations in order to pull the series from the deep depths it was in years ago. The cube theme is very unique from anything you see for designs and could certainly help propel the brand's awareness. The mechas specifically are very pleasantly designed with a nice mix of complexity and simplicity. Along with that, keep in mind that the cubes allow for a mix and match gimmick similar to Zord Builder. I'm a sucker for mix and match Megazords, as we'll see later. And I think that really selling this mecha aesthetic with the different forms of the Megazords can work really well in Hasbro's advantage, even outside of the toy sales. The weapons and their aesthetics are a little hit or miss when it comes to their use of the cube designs as well, but I think that it works overall. The cubes get memed a lot because of the popularity of Minecraft and its own cube aesthetic, but honestly the season as a whole just has really great visuals. Now let's get into the source footage possibilities. As I mentioned before, this is as close as I'll get to creating my own adaptation of Zyuohger, but even then, I'm not really going to be making my own adaptation. I'm going to be looking at the source footage overall and just come up with some small ideas that we can do to make the most out of the footage. For starters, I think that the Power Rangers adaptation should really do something with the idea of the blood game. I love the idea of these aliens really just messing with the Earth as part of this big game they're playing. It creates this division among the villains that's always fun to see, but they're still on the same team and they're still menacing to our heroes. Sadly, Ninja Steel already kind of did a game show setup with its villains, and due to how Ninja Steel is usually received by the fans, I'm not sure how good of an idea it would be to use something so similar. Of course, what you could do then is just not market the blood game as a game show. Instead, treat it as some kind of tradition these aliens have been doing for centuries. Don't play the game itself for jokes with the audience, make it something serious. You don't have to go mega dark with it, but as long as you don't go full silly with it, you can make it a memorable part of the season. I think that another thing that would be cool to do with the source footage is the use of the Zyumen and Zyuland. We don't actually spend too much time in Zyuland itself in Zyuohger, but it's shown in most of the stock footage of the Megazord combos, so I think it has to be adapted in some form. I think that expanding on Zyuland could be something cool to do here in Power Rangers. In Zyuohger, it was a bit of a pocket dimension kind of thing. Maybe in Power Rangers, they can try to make it into some kind of ancient hidden city. You know I love the MCU, right? Maybe Zyuland can be Power Rangers Wakanda. An ancient civilization that has existed for a long time now and has stayed isolated and distant from the rest of the world, which is the source of this season's Zords and gear. We are originally told that the city was just founded long ago and just happened to have this special equipment to combat the Blood game and its players, and isolation drove evolution to create these terrifying animal-human hybrids. Later on in the series, we discovered that the city was created by an alien who deserted the Blood game centuries ago and came to Earth to create a force that could end the game once and for all. This ancient alien would also be our version of Celis/Juo whale. So our final mecha is really the source of everything, and maybe the 10 is only added in modern times when it joins the main arsenal. The use of aliens is also where I want to add this small thing about the helmets. Every helmet is shown to have some bits of silver on it as a part of the mouthplate, no matter how small it is. However, we have some cases where there is gold, a color, or more silver. These different colors on the helmet and mouthplate I feel should represent something about the ranger using the suit. Gold on the helmet represents human, color represents animal, and silver represents alien. Zyuo Eagle and Zyuo the World would have gold because they are human users, while the other 4 main rangers would have color because they are part animal. But due to the alien origins of the gear in Zyuland, the animals all have some alien DNA already inside of them, while the humans get some implanted in them in order to be compatible with the gear, creating silver on the helmets. When the Zyuo Gorilla and Zyuo the World forms start being used, we see that it changes the behavior of the users. While there is still gold on the helmet, so they're still human, now there's an increase in silver, so they've got more alien DNA implanted in them. I don't know how to convey someone turning into an alien, but I'm sure there's some way to do it. When Zyuo Whale shows up, he features a helmet completely covered with silver. So this represents the Red Ranger essentially letting go of his humanity and allowing a full takeover of alien DNA, similar to Kamen Rider Gaim at the end of that series. When Zyuo Bird comes in, he would also be a full-on alien as well due to the full silver mouthplate. That's just a stupid little idea I had that I wanted to come up with that could create some story out of the designs of the Rangers based off some little quirks. Be sure to let me know your own ideas for what Hasbro could do with the Zyuohger stock footage for Power Rangers, as I love hearing different unique adaptation ideas. The last thing we will of course be looking at here is possible toy sales. Remember, this is looking at confirmed stuff we would see sold in the toy line. So we're throwing in Cube Condor as an easy repaint that could very well be in the show, but we're not throwing in Zyuo Condor because that's a little bit different, as it's another Ranger suit, and as other seasons have taught us, we might not always see a Ranger suit being used. Alright, so we're going to start with roleplay like we did last time. We've got 4.2 morphers, that's right. The 1.2 here belongs to the whale change gun since it's a behemoth of a weapon, and we might not see Hasbro sell this at a $30 price point like the other morphers. So I'm just giving them a little leeway and saying they could sell it at $35 or more. But honestly, if they do sell that thing for $30 like the other morphers, then we are a spoiled fandom. Then we've got 2 $30 weapons with lights and sounds, 1 $12 weapon, and then 2 masks at $10. For figures, we've got 13 6-inch figures, 7 Rangers, 2 power-ups, and 4 villains, all priced at $10. I imagine that the Instinct Awaken forms could be accomplished with the figures by only including some extra parts that you could add onto the figures as extra accessories. There's no need to recreate 7 other figures so we can have a Zyuo Eagle with wings, a lion and tiger with claws, you know, all that. Really, there's no need. Just include them as extra accessories. You could add a couple bucks to increase the price, but no need to make different figures, Hasbro, come on. Also, these figures would follow a gimmick pattern similar to Beast Morphers. Since Zyuohger lacks a gimmick just like Go Busters, it makes sense for Hasbro to do the same thing with this gimmickless season that they did for the current one. That, of course, would be just having some pack-in gimmicks with figures that adds some extra sounds to the morpher, but doesn't detract from the toy by itself. I've had this idea in my head for a while. It could be what route they take, but nothing's really for sure. Zords could also come with their own keys to work into morpher. Speaking of Zords, there will probably be 2 basic Megazord figures at $20 each. Lastly, we've got 5 12-inch figures at $10. Now we can talk about the big Megazords. There will be 4 of the big sets priced at $50 from the last video. Then there's 2 $15 separate auxiliary Zords. For the other weapon Zords, I imagine that the 4 we never actually get to see as robots could just be a $15 pack of 4 like in Japan. The other 4 are small enough that they could just be sold individually for $5 as well, or they could just be a pack later on. We'll also throw in $10 as a bit of leeway for extra figures or something of that nature. When you add up all the Zyuohger possible sales, you get $691. Oh, look, now we have something to compare this to. This is certainly much more than the $624 of Tokyuger, but honestly it's not the biggest margin. The big difference only exists because Zyuohger will have 4 morphers, as opposed to Tokyuger only having 2, because all the other numbers line up pretty closely. They would sell pretty much the same figures, the same Megazords, and since there's no gimmicks to sell. So really, they're kind of the same in cost you could sell. If they just make a few extra morphers for Tokyuger, now you're talking. Overall, I think that Zyuohger could do really well for Power Rangers. It has a very eye-pleasing aesthetic that I think could catch the attention of fans new and old, and really create a visually interesting show and toy line that could push the franchise forward. Of course, visuals don't make a show, and thankfully there are a lot of ideas in the stock footage that can be expanded upon to create an interesting series as well. We've got aliens, humans, and animals, and all of this can be joined together to create a crazy blood game for the season. Along with that, the season could also make a big splash in the toy department, which we all know is a big source of Power Rangers season money making. Doubutsu Sentai Zyuohger was one of the big candidates for which Sentai would become the 2019 Power Rangers season, and even though it was skipped back then, I hope that at some point it finally does have its time in the spotlight. There's a lot of potential for this season, and if it becomes adapted, I'm sure that Hasbro can use it well and expand the brand with it. If you like this video, please consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button so that you can stay tuned to all the episodes of Sentai Potential and my other Super Sentai and Tokusatsu videos on the channel. This is a big project that I'm doing on the channel, so any support, even just leaving a comment or a like, means a lot to me. So please consider doing so, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.